Imagine walking through your town one summer morning and seeing a woman dancing alone in the street. Not smiling, not celebrating, not performing for a crowd, just dancing. Hour after hour, step after step. By evening, her feet should have given out. Her body should have collapsed from exhaustion, but she didn't stop. The next morning, she was still dancing. People gathered to watch. Then something even stranger happened. Others began to join her. A handful became dozens. Dozens became hundreds, and before long, an entire city seemed to be caught in a nightmare they couldn't escape. 500 years later, historians still argue over what really happened. Was it poison, mass hysteria, religious fear, or something even stranger? Welcome to the Dancing Plague. To understand why this story is so strange, we first need to travel back to the summer of 1518. The city of Strasbourg sat within the Holy Roman Empire. Today it lies in modern-day France, but in early 16th century, life there was difficult. Most people lived close to survival. Poor harvests had damaged food supplies, disease was common, and medical knowledge was limited. And for many ordinary people, every year was a struggle simply to stay alive. Religion shaped daily life. People believed deeply in saints, curses, miracles, even divine punishment. The line between the physical world and the spiritual world was often far thinner than it is today. It was into this world that Frau Troffea stepped on a warm July day in 1518, and according to historical records, she began to dance. At first, nobody thought much of it. A woman behaving strangely in the street was unusual, but hardly the kind of event that would be remembered for centuries. Yet as the hours passed, something became clear. She wasn't stopping. Witnesses watched her continue through the day. Her movements became increasingly desperate, less like dancing and more like someone trapped inside a body she could no longer control. And so, night arrived. The streets emptied and homes closed their shutters. The city slept, but somehow, Frau Troffea continued. When morning came, she was reportedly still dancing, exhausted, sweating, barely able to remain upright, yet she was still moving. Nobody knew why. There was no music, and there was no festival, no celebration, and no obvious reason for what was happening. And then the impossible happened. Others began to join her. At first, it was only a few people. A man here, a woman there, another stranger joining for reasons nobody could explain. Perhaps they felt sympathy. Maybe even a bit curious. Perhaps they believed that Frau Troffea was part of some religious event. But nobody knows. What we do know is that the numbers continued to grow. Days passed and the dancers just kept coming. Now, what made the situation so alarming was that these people did not appear to be enjoying themselves. Witnesses described exhausted faces, sweat-soaked clothes, bodies pushed far beyond their limits. This was not a celebration, it was endurance. It's believed to be said that some cried whilst they danced, others begged for help, yet somehow they just continued moving. By the end of the week, the city was facing something it had never seen before. What had begun with a single woman was becoming a citywide mystery. Nobody understood what was happening, yet every day brought more dancers, more spectators, and more questions. Soon, the dancing became impossible to ignore, and the authorities took action. The city leaders consulted physicians. After all, if people were collapsing in the streets, surely doctors would know what to do. But 16th century medicine was different from modern medicine. The physicians examined the dancers, they observed their behaviour, and eventually they reached a conclusion. The dancers, they believed, suffered from an excess of hot blood. Now, according to the medical understanding of the time, the body could fall out of balance. Too much heat, too much blood, too much activity within the body, and so the doctors proposed a solution. The dancers should keep dancing. Now, the authorities of the time accepted that advice, and soon something extraordinary happened. Stages were constructed, public spaces were cleared, and musicians were hired. Instead of stopping the dancing, the city actively encouraged it. To the people of Strasbourg, this wasn't madness, it was medicine. If dancing was causing the problem, then perhaps dancing harder would cure it. But the cure didn't work. The dancers continued, the crowds continued to grow, and before long, the situation took a darker turn. As the weeks passed, the physical toll began to show. Historical accounts describe dancers whose bodies were beginning to fail. Their feet were swollen, muscles cramping, some reportedly dancing until they collapsed from exhaustion. And then came the reports that transformed a strange local event into one of history's most enduring mysteries: death. According to several contemporary accounts, some dancers died from the strain, not from violence, not from disease, but from the sheer physical punishment their bodies were enduring. Some chroniclers blamed exhaustion, others wrote of heart failure. Others claim stroke, but the truth is we simply don't know. 500 years later, historians still debate how many people died. Some believe the numbers were exaggerated, others question whether any deaths occurred at all. But whether the true figures were 50, 5, or none, the authorities clearly believed the situation had become serious. Their original solution had failed. The stages hadn't worked, and the musicians hadn't worked either, so the dancing continued. The city turned toward a different explanation, a religious one. Many people at the time believed the dancers had been afflicted by Saint Vitus, a Christian saint associated with strange movements, seizures, and uncontrollable dancing. If medicine had failed, perhaps faith could succeed. The remaining dancers were taken away from the city, and according to historical records, many were brought to a shrine dedicated to Saint Vitus. There, prayers were offered, religious rituals were performed, and special red shoes were reportedly placed upon their feet. Then something remarkable happened. The dancing began to stop. Slowly, one by one, the dancers recovered. The crowds disappeared, and the streets of Strasbourg finally fell silent. The mystery was over. At least, the event was. But for everybody else, the questions had only just begun. For the people of Strasbourg, the nightmare had ended, but for historians, the mystery was only beginning. What had caused hundreds of people to dance? Why had it spread from one woman to an entire city? And perhaps most importantly, why has nobody been able to explain it with certainty? Over the centuries, several theories have emerged, some convincing, others not so much, but each attempt to answer the same question: what happened in Strasbourg in 1518? One of the earliest explanations involves a fungus known as ergot. Ergot can grow on rye grain, and when consumed, it can cause hallucinations, muscle spasms, and strange physical symptoms. In simple terms, some historians suggested the people of Strasbourg may have accidentally poisoned themselves. It's an attractive theory. After all, contaminated food could affect large numbers of people all at once, and the symptoms can be severe. But there are problems. People suffering from ergot poisoning typically become extremely ill. Many struggle to walk, some experience seizures, and others become bedridden. Dancing continuously for days would be almost impossible. Today, most historians believe Ergot alone cannot explain what happened. For the people living through the event, the answer seemed much simpler. Many believed the dancers had been cursed or afflicted by Saint Vitus. To modern ears, that might sound strange, but in 16th century Europe, it was a perfectly reasonable explanation. People generally believed saints could intervene in daily life, for good or for punishment. And when the dancers were taken to the shrine of Saint Vitus, the dancing appeared to, well, stop. For many witnesses, that was proof enough. The problem, of course, is that it doesn't explain how the plague began or why it spread, only why people at the time believed it ended. Then there's the modern explanation. Today, the most widely accepted theory is something known as mass psychogenic illness. This is sometimes referred to as mass hysteria. Though many historians prefer the modern term, the idea is surprisingly simple. A community experiences extreme stress, fear, hardship, religious anxiety, and eventually that pressure manifests physically. There were poor harvests, disease, poverty, and deep religious beliefs. A constant fear that misfortune might be punishment from above. In that environment, one person's distress could potentially influence others, then others, and then more, until an entire community became caught in a cycle nobody fully understood. Of all the theories, this is currently the favourite among historians, yet even this explanation leaves questions unanswered. Why dancing? Why Strasbourg? Why 1518? Why not somewhere else? And perhaps the strangest question of all is, why did it begin with a single woman walking into the street and starting to move? 500 years later, we still don't know. What makes the dancing plague so fascinating isn't that people danced. People dance every day at weddings, festivals, celebrations. What makes this different is that they apparently couldn't stop. One woman steps into a street, then a handful of people join her, then dozens, and then hundreds. And even now, 500 years later, we still can't say with certainty why it happened. Maybe it was mass psychogenic illness, maybe it was something medical that historians haven't fully identified, or maybe the people of Strasbourg were responding to pressure we can barely imagine today. Whatever the answer, the dancing plague reminds us of something important. Human beings are connected in ways we don't always understand. Ideas spread, fear spreads, hope spreads, and sometimes behaviour spreads too. Somewhere between history, medicine, religion, and human psychology, the truth remains hidden. And perhaps the real mystery is how often human beings still follow one another without ever realising it. If you enjoyed today's video, please remember to like and subscribe and leave a comment below. What do you think caused the dancing plague? Was it mass hysteria, a medical condition, or do you think there's another explanation entirely? I'd love to hear your thoughts. So remember, until next time, question everything, keep safe, toodles.